All right, so we're talking editors today. Finding an editor is the first main crucial step that you're going to move your manuscript through when you are writing your own book. It's also one of the first big tasks or big investments that you're going to be making along your self-publishing journey. So it's important to know what types of editing you may or may not need, and also how to find an appropriate editor that's not only good and credible and reliable, but that fits within your budget. This is a crucial and critical step of the process that moves you from writer to author. It's very exciting. You should be excited if you're at this point. Now, real quick before we begin, my name is Courtney and my company Lead Her Publishing helps people self-publish their books. You can find out more about my company and what I do for people just like you by visiting my website, leadherpublishing.com. That's all one word. I'll put it in the description box as well, and also on social media at Lead Her Publishing. Okay, so finding your first editor is really more of an art than it is a science. There are many different ways to find editors for your book, and yes, I do recommend more than one editor, editors plural, and there's really no hard and fast rule about where exactly you should be finding your editor. Now, this Editing 101 is a two-part series, so today I'm going to talk to you about the 4 basic types of editing so that you can identify which type you may need or want to start with. And in the second video, you're going to find out more about where exactly to source editors, where to find them, how to hire them, all the details about how I hired my first editor and how you can find yours too. And if you're planning to self-publish your own book this year, then I highly suggest you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and like and or comment below to let me know what more information you would like to see. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is what type of editing you may need for your book and or which type to begin with. This should allow you to identify how much you may need to invest in your editing process, and again, which type of editing to begin with based on what type of genre you're writing in. Okay, so we'll start with the first most basic type of editing, and this is copy editing. Copy editing is primarily focused on spelling, on grammar, on punctuation, and even on style. A copy editor is going to ensure that your book is free from errors and inconsistencies in language. And in general, most people are going to need a copy edit. Even if you are a very good, skilled, A+ writer, you're still gonna want a copy edit on your manuscript. Now, this is the type of editing I suggest you begin with. Of course, you can do whatever you feel is necessary for your book, but a good copy edit is gonna allow your manuscript to be as clean as possible with as little errors as possible, especially if you're moving on to do the second type of editing, which is called developmental editing. Now, developmental editing focuses more on the overall structure and the content of the book. So in nonfiction writing, a developmental editor can help you expand on ideas or concepts that maybe you've touched on and you've got a little tip of the iceberg introduction on, but that could be expanded on. I found that in writing my very first book. My editor was really great at pointing out areas that needed to be expanded on. She was acting as sort of this first reader who had never read this information before, and so it was great to have another set of eyes on the content I was actually writing about. If you're writing a work of fiction, then a developmental editor will really analyze your plot, the character development, and the overall timeline of your book, and be able to fill in some of those plot holes or inconsistencies, and maybe even to have you expand on character development potential. So I personally feel that in fiction writing, developmental editing is a really, really big, important component, and you may even want to do it first before you do your copy edit. But if you're writing a work of nonfiction, which is usually the type of content that I work with my authors through, copy editing first, and developmental may be something minor on the side, especially if you're just writing about something that is a very straightforward topic. The third type of editing is called line editing. Line editing is a much more in-depth form of copy editing, and it's really essentially where your editor is going line by line in your manuscript, making sure that every sentence is as concise and succinct and coherent as possible. A line editor is going to help you refine your writing style and to really make sure that everything blends nice and smooth and there's no repetition and that your language is really clear. So line editing is a little more detail oriented, but still making sure that every last detail is really optimized within your sentences. For me and my clients, the 2 main components of editing that we really lean on heavily is the big copy edit and then a line edit as well. Now, I do recommend that you get multiple layers of editing done, especially on your first book. And I know that that can come with a little bit of a hiccup because it can be a finance issue, it can be a budgeting issue. I'll talk about finding an editor in part 2 of this series, but you do want to make sure that your manuscript is the most quality material that you could possibly put out there. And in all fairness, poor editing can really be that thing that gives self-published authors a bad name. If you try to do this and it's something that's outside your skill set, you're trying to self-edit, but it's really not your area of expertise, really know that about yourself and make sure that you're hiring out for the type of work that you need. The fourth main type of editing is proofreading, and this is something that would be done pretty much near the end of your editing journey. Proofreading is the final stage of editing. It's going to check everything from spelling and grammar and punctuation to nice, easy flow of sentences, but there's really not a whole lot of revisions happening in this stage. It's just making sure there are no glaring errors. With my clients and with my students, I recommend we do a proofread once the book has been laid out. So once it's gone from Word document to a PDF document that has been typeset, we do a digital proofread then. And I also recommend you do a proofread once you get your proof or galley copies, which is the advanced copy of your book once it's 99% ready to hit publish. So that's a basic overview of the 4 different types of editing that you may or may not need to utilize within your first self-published book. In the second part of this Editing 101 video, I'm going to share with you how to go about finding your first editor, places where you can find them, what should fit into your budget, different types of budgeting, different types of investments for editing, and what I personally did for my very first book when I self-published. There are some resources in the description box, so if you're still working on planning and mapping out your nonfiction book and you want to correspond with your existing business, there's a free download in the description box below, as well as access to my course, Authorized, which is how to self-publish your book. If you want to check that out, hop into the description box. And also let me know if there's anything else that you are looking for support on. Put your questions in there and I am happy to create content around that. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.
So catch me if I